I'm going to draw my implied line waterscape right now. I'm going to have a rainstorm coming down over an ocean. So you're going to start by drawing your implied lines in pencil. You're drawing your implied lines in pencil. So I have wavy lines here. Now, to make them implied lines, I'm going to have raindrops that move along the line. And then when I trace my raindrops in Sharpie, I can erase my implied lines, my wavy lines, and my raindrops will still show up and they'll look like they're going in a wavy line. I'm going to work on mine and come back. And here are my wavy raindrops. I'm going to add some clouds up at the top. These aren't really implied lines, these are just bumpy lines. But I want it to look like my raindrops are coming from somewhere. All right, I'm going to keep working on mine and then I'll come back. Here I have some more ocean lines that I've made. Now I'm going to have a dotted line in the background. Dotted lines can be implied lines too because they aren't full lines, but make it look like there is rain happening all in the background too. So I'm going to make my implied vertical lines. I'll come back. Here's my implied vertical lines. Now I think my last thing is I want to have a shark that looks like it's jumping out of the water. So I'm going to have an implied diagonal line that's going up. So I drew my implied line. Now I'm going to draw the water where my shark is coming from. Then I'm going to have my shark jumping out and up. Let's give it some teeth, because why not? It's got a big open mouth. And let's give it an eyeball too. So you can see that my shark looks like it's along a diagonal line, even though it's not just a diagonal line. Okay, some more bumpy lines, or some more wavy lines in there. Now I'm going to trace it with a pen or a Sharpie. I'm going to trace mine with a Sharpie. I'll come back. All right, I've quickly drawn mine with Sharpie. The reason I want to do it with Sharpie or pen is because when I erase it, my Sharpie won't smudge. So now I'm going to go in, and once my Sharpie is dry, I'm going to erase all of my implied lines. Those are what's called a guideline. So watch, when I erase my implied lines, you can still see that my giant raindrops look like they're in a wavy line, even though you can't actually see my wavy line anymore. And the same thing when I erase my vertical guidelines, my vertical lines, it still looks like my dotted lines are going in a vertical line. You can see the difference between where I have my pencil line and no pencil line. And my shark still looks like it's moving diagonally. Here is my implied line seascape. Now I'm going to watercolor it. The other reason that I used a permanent marker or a pen is because now when I put watercolors over it, it's not going to smear. I'm going to get some water and dip it in my paint. Since I'm doing a seascape, I'm going to use blue. I want to have enough water on my paint that when I paint it, it's not just like super duper thick paint, because this is watercolor. And what's the first word in watercolor? Water, you got it. Look at that. I've got a little bit too much paint on there, so I'm actually going to get a little bit more water and just add it right to the paper. And you can see that the watercolor just moves. I think I want it even a little bit lighter, so I'm just going to get some more water and kind of mush it around. My paintbrush is like a ballerina, She's not the Incredible Hulk. She's a ballerina. She's just dancing so carefully. A little bit more water. The other nice thing about watercolors is once they dry, you can get them wet again for a little while, and they'll still work. Okay, I'm going to work on my seascape a little bit more, and I'll come back. Alright, it's time for me to change colors. I'm going to have a purple sky. So after I'm finished with my blue, I can't just go to the purple because that will make a mess. So I'm going to wash off my paintbrush really well. And then instead of flicking it like this, which will also make a mess, I'm going to just dab it on the side and get some purple. I want mine to be super light purple, so I'm going to put a lot of water in my purple. Again, what's the first word in watercolor? Water, you got it. Look at how much lighter that is because I have lots of water. It's kind of hard to tell up there because it's so shiny, but when it dries you'll be able to see. Alright, I'm going to keep working on my purple sky. I didn't have any black in my watercolors, so I just decided to use blue for my shark. One really cool thing that you can do is while your sky, in my example, is still wet, you could use a different color and just put little blobs for my raindrops, and you can see that because my other watercolor is still wet, it's making a tie-dye effect. So the blue is bleeding into the purple, which then makes it look even more like rain. Alright, this is all for my watercolor seascape demo. I'm excited to see how yours goes.